So U.S. forces continue to be attacked over in the Middle East. But right now, all we hear is Iran is telling the United States that we will be hit hard if no ceasefire in Gaza happens. This is what we continue to hear. That if the United States doesn't jump in and demand Israel and Netanyahu to put on a ceasefire, stop bombarding the area with bombs and missiles and ground troops. If the United States doesn't step in and do something, according to Iran, the U.S. will be hit hard. Now, we will address what's going on there. We will address what Congress is doing, what President Biden is doing, because now President Biden is being threatened. He's being threatened, and we now know there's been 8 more attacks on U.S. forces in the Middle East. And President Biden said earlier that that would not be tolerated. So what does this mean? Well, according to many experts, this means the war is widening. As the war widens, the United States will have a greater impact on it. But what does this mean for you and I? Well, that's what we're going to get to in today's video. So make sure you stick around, and I'll explain exactly what is going on. So Iran made it very clear that if this war widens and we do not see a ceasefire in Gaza, that the United States will be hit hard. Well, look at this. This is from the Israeli Defense Force. It takes over a Hamas stronghold in northern Gaza. That just happened this morning. Now, does that look like a ceasefire? Absolutely not. Because Netanyahu stated that he does not agree to a ceasefire. Yes, rolling pauses so that the Palestinian people can get out, they can get food, medication, they can get water, fuel, they can get the necessities. That is something that they're open to. We now know that more than 70% of the people of Gaza has already been displaced. They've left their homes and they've got out. Now, the Israeli Defense Force is going in and trying to find and pull out Hamas. They need to get the area back. And according to Netanyahu just this morning, he stated that the Israeli Defense Force is going to have and pretty much have to stay in Gaza indefinitely. They will have to fight and support the people. So we'll see what happens. But according to many experts, and I want to read you this, Israel doesn't have a lot of time left. Okay? Look at this. It says Israel has only weeks to defeat Hamas as the global opinion sours. The reason why they're saying they only have weeks left is because today marks 1 month. It's been 1 month since Hamas attacked Israel. And in that 1 month time, about 1,400 Israelis have lost their lives, but according to reports, more than 10,000 Palestinians have lost their lives. Out of those 10,000 people, about 4,100 were minors, were children. And that's why this kind of global opinion about this war is starting to turn. Because there's so many children, so many civilians that are losing their lives in a war that they had nothing to do with. Now, here's where the United States steps in. The United States, as of right now, has been somewhat quiet. Yes, we're trying to pass a $14.3 billion bill that's going to send more aid to Israel. We also, on the table, have some additional funding that's going to go to Gaza for humanitarian relief, to send additional food and fuel and water and medications. But that's probably something that's going to take a little bit longer. But the United States has pretty much taken a step back and is just watching, just trying to evaluate the situation and give their input when they can. We saw Secretary Antony Blinken head over to the Middle East, made 3 different stops, and tried to negotiate a ceasefire, but didn't happen. President Biden sat down with Netanyahu himself and tried to get him to accept a ceasefire, and he wouldn't do that either. So here's where things are at. Here's what just happened. There's been 8 more attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria as the Iranian-backed militias ramp up their attacks. We continue to see these attacks on the United States. Some are saying that this is a planned attack, that these aren't just happening out of the blue, that these Iranian-backed militias are attacking U.S. troops on purpose. They're attacking us on purpose to try to pull us into the war so that then Iran can really attack the United States. And we heard this from the FBI director himself just last week, that he stated that there is an increased possibility of attacks here on U.S. soil. It's not just going to be an attack on the president, not just going to be an attack on U.S. troops abroad, an attack here on U.S. soil. This could mean it's a cyber attack, which is more than likely, but seeing another country's troops on our soil is probably something that will not happen. But here's a major threat. What we have heard is that Iranian, we'll just call them terrorists, have already made it into the United States, and it's because of our southern border. It's been very open. This is why there are many lawmakers that are now fighting to get the southern border closed. We do not want it open. Keep it closed so that more people cannot make their way into the United States and pose another potential threat. Now, what we know is that the war is going to widen. As it widens, if we keep our border open, it will cause more security problems here within our border. This is why some are saying that we need to do whatever we can to strengthen the southern border. This is why lawmakers are proposing they will agree to send additional funding over to Ukraine. In exchange, we need some border security reforms. That's something Democrats don't want, but at the same time, Republicans do not want to send any money to Ukraine. And again, you're probably thinking, well, why does Ukraine matter to the southern border? Well, it's just what Republicans want. Republicans want a stronger and stricter border policy, and Democrats want funding for Ukraine. So in order to get one or the other, you have to get them both. That's kind of where we're at. But it's the widening war that's creating a lot of issues. Look at this. Secretary Anthony Blinken warns Iran against widening the conflict between Israel and Hamas. And the reason why he's warning Iran about this is because Iran is the one that's backing a lot of these different groups. And Iran is pushing that button. They're over there pretty much, playing the strings, right? They're the puppet master. And what it looks like they're trying to do, according to many experts, is they're trying to find ways to widen this war because that would benefit them. Well, look at this. It says senators here in the United States, this is Senator Graham and Senator Blumenthal, they are introducing resolution to strike Iran if Hezbollah attacks Israel. That is something that they have already introduced. So they are trying to pass a bill that's going to say that if Hezbollah attacks Israel, right, then the United States can attack and strike Iran. That's not what Iran wants, but Iran does benefit from a wider war. Again, Iran says the United States is going to be hit hard if this war widens, okay? If we don't accept a ceasefire. Well, the United States has no say in that, but here's the problem. This is what happened, okay? The Israeli Defense Forces took over a Hamas stronghold. This was in northern Gaza. This is not a ceasefire. We are not accepting a ceasefire. Now, rolling, kind of humanitarian pauses are happening, but according to many experts, they're not happening enough so that people can really get out. So that's kind of where things are at right now. The United States is still being attacked. the threats from President Biden, from other U.S. officials, they haven't done anything yet. So according to experts, the only way Iran is going to take the hint and receive this message is by attacking Iran. We'll see. I don't know if that's going to be the best bet, but we will see as we get more information. And as we do, I promise I'll fill you in on all the latest news and updates. But again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.